Hello, my name is John. I'm a 19-year-old living in the Aylesbury constituency, and I thought to bring it upon myself to reach out to every parliamentary candidate to see if they would agree to being interviewed. Now, unfortunately, only 3 agreed, but that's okay. That's still something. The Liberal Democrat candidate, the Labour candidate, and the Green Party candidate agreed. But unfortunately, there is no right-wing representation here. I reached out to the SDP, I reached out to Reform, and I reached out to the Conservative candidates. I didn't get a reply from the SDP or Reform. I did get a reply from Rob Butler, who refused to take part. In terms of the Workers' Party of Britain, there is no contact email address, so unless you want to volunteer for them, which I don't. So why am I doing this? Well, because I think it's important for people to know who exactly they're voting for. Believe it or not, Keir Starmer, Rishi Sunak, Nigel Farage, they are not on our ballot papers. They are different people who have their own brains, their own voices, their own minds. And I think it's important for people living here to see who exactly they are. So I hope you enjoy this. Stephen Lambert, you are the parliamentary candidate for the Liberal Democrats in the Aylesbury constituency. Firstly, I want to start off by asking, who is Stephen Lambert?
Well, Steve Lambert is a local councillor. I've lived here for 24 years. I work for a charity that helps small businesses. I'm involved in Youth Concern. I'm an ambassador. I've been a charity trustee of theirs since 2007. Also involved with HUK as well.
Right. Hello, Laura. You are the parliamentary candidate for Aylesbury for the Labour Party. Firstly, I want to start off by asking, who is Laura Kyrke-Smith?
Great question. Well, I am a first-time candidate, so my background is in the charity sector, before that the private sector, before that I worked for the last Labour government, so this is my first time going into politics. My reasons for doing it is that I'm fed up with 14 years of government that isn't serving people, isn't putting people first. For me, that's the first job of a government, to serve people and to aspire to make people's lives better and to deliver that. So that's my motivation for going into politics. But I've got a mixed background. I'm a mum. I've got 3 young kids actually. It was worrying about their future in part. That was another motivation for me doing this. And I live just over by Amersham, not far away. I know Aylesbury well. I have my little boy in the hospital here, so it's somewhere that I'd be so proud to represent if I were elected as the MP.
Okay. Julie Atkins, you are the Green Party parliamentary candidate for the Aylesbury constituency. Firstly, I want to start off by asking, who is Julie Atkins?
Okay, Julie Atkins. I'm an Aylesbury resident all my life. Are you trying to listen in? Okay.
You can watch it back.
Yeah, you won't watch it back. So I'm Julie Atkins. I was born in Aylesbury many years ago. I went to school here. My parents are from here. I've lived here. I've worked here my whole life. This is my home, and I care very much about it. I've watched it change over the years. I've seen how the education system has changed. I've seen the job opportunities fall. I've seen us losing access to our doctors, our dentists. I've seen hospital waiting lists grow. I've seen the town expand massively without infrastructure and without care for the environment around it. And I thought it was about time, instead of sitting back and complaining about it, I got up and did something about it. So here I am.
And is this your first time you're fully getting involved in politics?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And what issues do you think are affecting your constituents and the nation at large? I know they can both be tied in together quite, but yes.
Yeah. So there are a lot of issues. I mean, if you first come down, the cost of living has really affected so many different aspects of people's lives. Lockdown didn't help, but the way that Liz Truss crashed the economy into a wall at high speed has really messed up people's mortgages, and loan repayments. Small businesses are really struggling, and you know, it's not helped all the way through the economy. So people's jobs are at risk and their livelihoods are at risk, and that's quite challenging. You know, other things are the environment, like all of the discharge, they call them spills, of sewage into our local watercourses. Nearly 1,200 of them in this area alone. This is really worrying. That's our water, that's our streams. And they're just allowed to do that. So that's one thing. That's playing out really big on the doorsteps. Actually, people are really unhappy with the environment and they're really concerned about climate change. And what they're not seeing is from the other 2 parties. I mean, Labour basically discarded their environment policy and their climate change policies and just wrapped it up into energy. Well, it's more than just energy. And the Conservatives, well, I think the writing's on the wall for their green credentials.
Right. Okay. And what issues do you think are affecting constituents the most? What can you identify on the doorsteps or whatever?
Yeah, we're out talking to people every day. Often the first thing that comes up is the state of the health the state of the NHS and healthcare more generally. So people that have been waiting for a long time for an appointment at the hospital, or people that can't register with a GP, or just waiting too long to get a GP appointment. That comes up a lot. Mental health comes up a lot as well. And actually I'm particularly pleased of some of the commitments in our manifesto on mental health. So we'll recruit 8,500 new mental health care workers. We'll expand primary care so that there's more mental health support there alongside GPs. So health and mental health come up a lot. The state of the economy comes up a lot. People just talking about how difficult it is to afford their daily shop or their energy bills. And I went just down the road to the food bank at the Methodist Church. But you meet people there who are, they're working a full-time job. They're sort of really trying their best and still having to go to a food bank. So just the cost of living and I think what people would say is not very careful management of the economy, to put it mildly, over the last 14 years comes up a lot as well.
You sort of touched on it already, but what are the main issues that you think are affecting constituents and the country at large?
It varies from constituency to constituency, but here in Aylesbury I think job opportunities are really important. Things that make our young people stay here.
Yeah.
At the moment when people leave school, there's not a lot really for them here to do, and there's not a lot for them to do generally. When I left school or was a young teenager, there was loads to do here, plenty, that me and my friends could do, but at the moment not so much. So I want to make sure there are more opportunities for people as they're growing up to really like being in Aylesbury. So when they leave school, they want to stay here, and that there's jobs for them and there's opportunities. And Aylesbury transport's a big problem. It's difficult to get around, and if you do have a car or a bus, you're stuck in traffic for ages. There's potholes everywhere. Yeah. We've got HS2 running through the county. I'm unfortunate enough to live very close to where they're doing that, so I get to hear it quite a lot of the time. It's ruining the places I like going walking when I finish work. That needs to change. We need to improve the town centre. All of our shops closed. We don't have a lot of retail opportunity here anymore. That in itself affects jobs. Sure. So that's quite important. Generally, the environment's important. One of the things the Green Party want to do is make sure everyone has access to a green space to go and walk in within 15 minutes walk from their home. Okay. And that's really important, not just here in Aylesbury, but everywhere in the country. We want clean air. We want people to be able to walk in parkland, to have places to take their children to play, places where people can just hang out with their friends and do all sorts of things like that. Yeah. We want to make sure that there's enough money in teaching. We've seen teaching assistant jobs being, stopped. Basically, there's not enough money to employ good teaching assistants in schools. We want to change the system generally. So in Buckinghamshire, obviously, we have a lot of grammar schools here, and that's unfair. We don't want kids at 11 being told they failed because they don't get through the 11 plus. It's not a viable system anymore, so we want to get rid of the 11 plus completely. Okay. We don't want there to be good schools and bad schools. Sure. We want there to be good schools. All schools should be good schools. Mm-hmm. We want to stop the charity status of private schools, to make, they need to be accessible to everybody. Right. Everyone needs to have the same opportunities. Okay. That went on for a little bit long, didn't it? No,
it's okay. It's no problem at all. That's good. Now, I admire your determination because you ran for Parliament in 2010. You came second, if I remember correctly. In 2015, you came fourth. In 2017, you came third. And in 2019, you came third. Now,
increasing the vote share.
Right, sure. Okay, right, yeah. So a question I want to ask is, based on your answer, there's one issue that I don't think you spoke about that quite a prominent party at the moment is speaking about. In 2015, UKIP kind of pushed you into fourth place, I think, and came second in the Aylesbury constituency. And now we have the same party leader leading a new party, the Reform Party, and he's claiming that immigration is this election's main issue. So what do you have to say about that?
It really isn't.
Okay.
And just to update your thinking on what that is, there are a whole load of different politics going on in 2015, and it wasn't just about immigration, it was a whole host of other things. And I think, the Reform Party and the Conservative Party are basically an elongated civil war within the right-hand side of politics. And I think that's going to be almost in the death throes of the Conservative Party. And I'm not going to say it's given birth to the new Reform Party and that's going to be the replacement, but certainly their general voting population is unhappy.
Right.
And I think the Conservative Party in Parliament haven't represented the needs of the country, just the self-serving few where they think they're going to get the votes. And I think the Reform Party are trying to pick that up. And I think that's unfortunate for British democracy, really. There is a place for everybody's voice, there absolutely is. But actually, speaking as somebody that is a second-generation immigrant who's speaking about things that matter to local communities, it's not about whether it's going to be Reform or Conservative. It's a case of how can we make people's lives better. And this country's been enriched, Aylesbury has been enriched by immigration and migration.
Right.
So I don't think this is the issue that was 2015, 17 and 19 at all. 2019 was another Brexit referendum, for want of a better word. But Reform, it feels like it's a bit of this is Nigel Farage again. Ooh, look at me. It's all about me, rather than actually doing something of value to the constituents that I represent. So, yeah.
Okay. So do you think immigration is a problem at all for constituents here?
No, I don't. Not in Aylesbury, no.
Okay. In 2015, the general election result in the Aylesbury constituency, I know that the boundaries have changed, but I think there's sort of still similar ways of thinking. UKIP came second.
Yes.
Which is quite striking, and it was led by a leader who is now out of retirement again, leading Reform UK, and they're expected to take a lot of votes away from the Tories. But I do think it highlights a big issue, which is immigration. Have you experienced that on the doorstep? So people, So how would you advocate for dealing with the problem? Do you even think it's a problem?
Yeah, great question, and it does come up on the doorstep, and people are worried, and I think they're worried because they link it to their own jobs and their own prospects and so on. I do think it's been a bit distorted. It takes up a disproportionate amount of kind of airtime and media time generally, but also in this election campaign. But that's not to say it's a serious issue and concern for people. When I talk about it on the doorstep, I talk about the work that the Labour Party would do to set up a border security command to just try and get a grip on the challenge of small boats crossing, which none of us want to see. It's desperate people fleeing conflict, fleeing persecution, put into these desperate situations, and actually, again, just some steady management, some proper policing of that border, and some quicker processing of asylum applications, and effective removals of people who don't meet the criteria to stay, and effective integration for people who do. There's lots that we can do there that I hope, if we can get our heads down and do it as a Labour government, I hope will provide a bit of reassurance for people. And then there's a kind of much bigger issue of what skills do we need in the economy? Where do we have those skills here? Where do we need to train people up? Where can we have more people? Where do we want to bring people over to plug skills gaps in the economy? And again, we've been looking at the Australian model for that, and starting with a proper skills strategy, we think we can have a better sort of strategy for managing migration off the back of that. But I just think, you also meet people who have come here, their families have come here, or their parents have come here. They're making these amazing contributions to society, and that's also something to be celebrated, and that gets lost in some of the debate around immigration, I think.
Yeah. The Aylesbury constituency has changed boundaries, though I still think there's largely sort of the same attitudes from 2015, let's say. And in 2015, a large party, UKIP, came second, which is quite telling, I think, about the attitudes that are here. And obviously, it was led by a party leader who has now come out of retirement to lead Reform UK, and he is calling this the immigration election. What are your thoughts on that?
I have thoughts on UKIP, but I should probably keep them to myself.
Okay,
A lot of the problem with the Aylesbury Vale constituency is the way that it's been managed, I guess. So we've had a Conservative MP here for 100 years. There's been no change in that. And it's allowed a group of people to see the county develop in a particular way with particular aims. Now, UKIP's come about because people were afraid. You know, they were afraid of an influx of immigrants because tabloid newspapers in particular peddled stories that were lies. You know, we have an amazing community here in Aylesbury particularly. You know, I've been lucky enough to meet with the Hindu community, the Muslim community, and they're great people. And we need to make sure that everyone who's here feels that Aylesbury is their home and that we can all work together and learn from them. And the Hindu community that I met with, they said they were going to adopt me. You know, right. They were lovely, and you know, I'm so excited to be able to work with them and to work with everyone else who's come here and made this such a multicultural country. And what we need to do is stop allowing fear to make people be afraid of immigrants. You know, they enrich every country they go to. Now, I'm very lucky. I get to travel the world for my job, and I have done for the last 20 years. And really, it's a very small place, and everybody everywhere is really the same. You know, they want a home, they want shelter, they want food, they want family, they want friends, and they want opportunity. That doesn't change from Aylesbury to Auckland to Los Angeles or anything like that. And what we need to do is just bring the things that make Aylesbury unique, along with all the people that have come here to Aylesbury, and just make ourselves a big community. And we need to fight these people that say immigrants are bad. You know, we saw when we Brexited, the loss of people working in a lot of our industries. You know, our nurses left, our retail staff left. Everybody suddenly went, and we were a little bit lost. You know, all those people that made up our town and our country weren't there anymore, and it was a mistake. And people like Nigel Farage and Reform and UKIP, they're dangerous. You know, they create disharmony and fear, and we don't want that. Okay. We want everyone to just get on.
Yeah. Do you understand sort of the fears that people might have because of the immigration numbers that have just been increasing and increasing? Do you think that's a problem at all?
No, I don't think it's a problem at all.
Okay.
You know, we also emigrate.
Yeah.
You know, we only need to look at the number of British people in Spain, the number of expats in Hong Kong and different Asian countries. It works both ways. The problem is where you hear one or two stories that are brought forward by those very right-wing parties that escalate out of control a little bit, and you know, and that's where the problem is. You know, we don't have a problem with immigration in this country. What we have a problem with is a safe and sensible way for people to come here.
Okay. Now, many on the left, they care a lot about. I'm not saying no one on the right cares about this either, but I think mostly on the left, people care about the issue in Gaza.
Yes.
And sort of the Tory response to it is different to. Is it different to the Labour response? What is your response to it? What do you have to say to constituents who might feel like the Gaza issue is a very big issue for them?
Yeah, also something that rightly comes up a lot. And I mean, my own background is working in the charity sector, and specifically I've been running a humanitarian charity that works in Gaza, among many other crisis-affected places in the world. So I have some personal experience of how awful the situation is, and it's, you know, so obvious to me that there needs to be a ceasefire now, and it needs to be a permanent ceasefire, and we need aid, much more aid into Gaza than there has been so far. But we also need to focus on how do we build stability and security in the region over the long term. And there's a very clear commitment in our manifesto to recognising Palestinian statehood, which I'm really glad is there, alongside, you know, a viable sovereign Palestinian state alongside the state of Israel. And I think that has to be the basis for negotiating a two-state solution. That's not in the Conservative manifesto, so I think that's quite a big difference between us.
All right. On the left, more people on the left than the right, I'd say. They care a lot about the Gaza situation and the conflict happening there. So what are your thoughts on that?
So we were the first party that came out absolutely in favour of a complete ceasefire. Okay. You know, we weren't afraid to that. We want an immediate ceasefire. We want the UK to stop supplying arms to Israel. We absolutely condemn the fighting on both sides. You know, people people on the ground in Israel and people on the ground in Palestine do not want this fight. It's the governments that are creating it, and we absolutely supported. I can't remember the name now; it's completely gone out of my head. The charges that they want to bring against Israel for crimes against humanity, we support that. And we were the first party that actually put out a complete idea of what we want to stop. So we do not support the war in Gaza at all. We support the people on the ground in both countries.
Very clear answer. Now, I forgot to ask Steve Lambert a question about Gaza. So he kindly sent me a video going over exactly what he believes and what his stance is.
So, John, the next question you asked me was what my position is about the Gaza conflict. Well, it's really straightforward. The Liberal Democrats and I have been calling for an immediate bilateral ceasefire since day one. We're the only political party to have done that. We have to stop the killing here. Like 37,500 people killed since October. More than 16,000 of those women and children. This is not acceptable. So the conflict has to end right now. An immediate bilateral ceasefire and an immediate recognition of the state of Palestine. We need to respect the ICC and ICJ rulings that have gone on. So when South Africa brought that case, we need to pay attention to that and pay attention to international law. It's not acceptable to kill one person, let alone 38,000 of them. And part of that Gaza, in Gaza, Hamas can play no part whatsoever in those peace processes. But Israel and Palestine need to be able to live side by side. So recognise the state of Palestine immediately, like other countries have done, should be one of those first steps. This is one of the big things facing our community, and I hear it a lot on the doorstep and across the communities. So the Liberal Democrats have been really, really clear on this policy, and that's where we are different from the Conservatives and Labour. So the Conservatives, our own Conservative MP, he voted against a ceasefire in Gaza. And the Labour Party leadership, Keir Starmer, said it wasn't the time for a ceasefire. And then a whole load of his councillors resigned from the party, and he had to sack some of his front bench. The difference between those two main parties, Labour and the Conservatives, and the Liberal Democrats, is we have called for immediate bilateral ceasefire and a recognition of the state of Palestine immediately, to stop selling arms to Israel as well. So hopefully that's given you a flavour about what my thoughts are and what my party policies are on this really crucial issue facing our constituents.
What do you have to offer that other parties don't?
Well, we have really broad range policies. I am the local candidate. I've lived here for 24 years. I've represented the area as a local councillor for 20 years. And I've been the mayor of Aylesbury right up until just a couple of weeks ago. So I know what it's like to live and work and breathe Aylesbury. And I'm the only candidate that can stand there and say that genuinely, representation and living here and working here and being part of the community. So what I offer is a real face. A real local community face, somebody that understands what it's like to live and breathe Aylesbury and our villages as well. I've campaigned all the way through our villages. I've done that for years and years. So I know what it's like to live in Eddlesborough or Dagnall or Grove. I've been there. I understand it. Wing, it's in our neighbourhood. So I don't think it's unusual. So for me, it's about being local. For our policies nationally, we've got a lot of stuff in there, about getting a fair deal, not just for health, education, for the economy, for the environment, really big ticket stuff, and actually is important to all of us. Just take a little look at the manifesto, libdems.org.uk/manifesto, okay. And you'll see that we've got lots of stuff there that you can think, well, that's a big national local issue, but you can absolutely translate it into local.
Sure. What do you have to offer that the other candidates/parties don't?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I would just say there is also a tactical voting point. I think people should vote with their heart and their values, but there is also just a tactical voting point here in the Aylesbury constituency, which is that it's basically a two-horse race between us and Conservatives. So I do think that's worth people keeping in mind. There is a risk that a vote for any other party but Labour just results in another 5 years of a Conservative Member of Parliament here. But I do think that we've got a serious plan for government. We've put a lot of thought into what we can afford, what we can't afford, what we can actually do. The last thing we want to do is overpromise and then not be able to deliver anything. So we have got a serious programme for government for the next 5 years. We can't wait to get our heads down and deliver that. But I don't think we're seeing quite that same level of seriousness almost from the other parties in terms of what's actually affordable, and that real focus on delivery and what we would do to deliver in government.
Okay. What do you have to offer that the other candidates don't?
This is my home and has been since I was born, and no other candidate can say that. Right. I've grown up here, I've watched it change, and I really, really care for this place. I work as a school governor here. I do mentoring for young people over at Tring School, which I know isn't my constituency quite anymore.
A lot of people live here and
We're
go
getting
there.
But and I think the Green Party offer a realistic way of changing the way the country's going at the moment. The plans that we put out in the manifesto in terms of how we're going to fund everything, that's been checked over by economists, and they said it will work. It amazes me at the moment that people aren't jumping on that and saying, actually, this is going to work. We should all be voting Green, because they're still a little bit afraid of something that's a little bit different. And the Green Party, because we've always put the environment and climate and people first, we're viewed as a little bit different. We're not putting big business first, we're not putting the wealthy first. And that's what's kept the Conservatives and Labour in power for so many years. Right. But us and the Liberals, for that matter, we've got great ideas, and people need to consider them seriously.
Sure. What does a better Britain and a better Aylesbury look like?
I was going to say it's a Liberal Democrat government, isn't it?
Right.
Of course it will be.
Again.
In reality, Britain's a great place to live. It's got so many opportunities in it. Aylesbury also, it is the town and the villages of opportunity. We have a vibrant small business community. We have great colleges and universities around us. We have opportunity here. We're lucky to have that, but we work hard at it here locally, and certainly me and my team of councillors, we've got 33 councillors in the new constituency versus 18, 19 versus, Conservative, no Labour, no Green. Right. So this is we work it, we understand what's going on in each community. So there's lots of opportunity here.
Okay. What does a better Britain and a better Aylesbury look like?
Yeah, great question. Ultimately the judge of that is the people who live here, right? And whether or not in 5 years' time, when there's another election, whether or not they're saying things are feeling a bit better, I can afford life. I have been able to get on the housing ladder. I have been able to get that job I've been trying to get for ages, and I have had that extra support I need in school. So it's for people here to be the judge of that rather than me. But for me, a better Britain is people in 5 years saying a Labour government has made a difference to their lives.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What does a better Aylesbury and a better Britain look like?
Gosh, it looks like one where everybody in the area is thriving. That there's hope and dreams, and people know how to make those hopes and dreams happen. It's knowing that when we send our children to school, they're going to a safe place where they're going to learn, they're going to be happy, they're not going there hungry. When they come home, that there's food on the table, that they've got friends to go out and play with, that when they finish school, they've got jobs, opportunities. If they want to go to university, they can. If they want to go and do an apprenticeship, they can. That there's no debt attached to becoming students. We don't want to see our students going to university and coming out with £80,000 to £100,000 of debt because they want to be a nurse and help people. That's not what we want. We want all these people sitting in the town here to have shops to go around, to have places to meet their friends, and we want them to feel safe. We want them to feel proud of their town. We want them to enjoy their green spaces. We want them to walk around Watermead Lake, to go around to Buckingham Park. Well, actually, that's not my constituency either, that's in Aylesbury. It's crazy. Yeah. But we just want people to have a better life, free from debt, free from pollution, free from seeing their waterways filled with sewage because their local MP has been voting in favour of allowing the dumping of sewage in the waterway. And we want them when they reach old age to know that they'll be cared for and they won't be alone in their home, unable to afford to put their heating on because it's been priced out of their hands.
Sure. Brilliant. One final question.
One final question?
Yes.
That's it? Well, I was expecting lots of questions.
Okay, right, okay. I'm a 19-year-old. I will be casting my vote for the first time this general election on the 4th of July. And many people will be in a similar position. Why should young people like me vote for you?
Well, certainly I am one of them. I feel like I'm one of them anyway, because our manifesto offers opportunity. It offers a clear view about the cost of living crisis, social and affordable homes, 150,000 social and affordable homes across the country, local plans, lots and lots of jobs in the new green economy. We're looking at education in a very different way, trying to make everybody or help everybody get the best they can out of education. And actually, when you think about it, your generation are not dyed in the wool blue or red or left or right or anything else like that. You're more likely to go on policy. And if you're looking at policy, Liberal Democrats are a great place to look at, to be quite honest. And now we come together twice a year to form policy. Right. So you can't we don't have think tanks that say your policy is now this, like having a Conservatives and Labour Party. It is us members that do that. And we do that from our local constituencies. So when we meet together in the spring and in the autumn and we debate our policies, we're saying from a local perspective, this is what it looks like. And we stand and we vote for it. And our manifesto it's just there.
Uh-huh. Why should young people vote for you?
Brilliant question. And first of all, brilliant that you're voting, because one thing that I do hear a lot is just a general frustration and apathy with politics. And I think that's something that, again, we're going to have to work hard to fix if we're in government, just rebuilding that trust and faith in government and politics and the political process. So brilliant that you're voting. That's the first thing I'd say. I think, look, there's lots that we want to do for young people. We've talked a bit about mental health, but if I think about the younger people I've met on the doorstep, mental health does come up a lot. The environment comes up a lot. I'd say we've got a really serious plan for protecting the planet. And in my own background, I've campaigned on climate change and the importance of tackling climate change. So I think if you look at some of what we're doing to set up Great British Energy and get us on track to renewable energy, if you look at what we want to do to end dumping of sewage in the rivers around here, the sort of international, national and local levels. But I think we have a serious plan for the environment and for the planet, and we care about your future. And we hear from far too many young people that they can't quite get the right training and they can't get an apprenticeship and they can't get a job. We will guarantee for 18 to 21-year-olds, we'll guarantee some form of training or apprenticeship for people to help get you sort of into the job that you want to be doing. So I hope that adds up to quite an exciting sort of set of things that we hope we can change. And you're the future, and that's why we need to be putting you first.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Why should young people like myself vote for you?
Because you should care about your future. And that's really the bottom line. There are parties out there that don't want you to vote because they're afraid. Sure. We want you to vote. We want you to take control of what's been going on in the country and in your town. We want you to make a difference. The fact that you're here interviewing me and interviewing other candidates says that there's hope out there, that people do care about what's going to happen to them. Don't let other people make your choices for you. Mm-hmm. Get out there. If you care about whether you can go for a walk in the park in the future with your friends, vote. If you care about what opportunities you want for you now that you're 19 and you've left school, do you want to go to university? Do you want to go to college? Do you want to find a job? Mm-hmm. If the answer is yes to any of those things, you need to vote now. So, we want you to vote. We want you to seize control of your future and stop letting other people decide it for you.
Sure. I said one final question. I want to push. Just one more. Do you think you can win?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think you can win?
Yes, I think we can win. It's going to be very, very close between us and the Conservatives, and every vote is going to matter. And over the next week and a bit, we'll be working hard every day to earn people's trust and to earn those votes. But yes, it's so close, and every vote will count.
Do you think you can win?
Realistically, if everybody who's said to me so far, said, we'd really like to vote for you, but we're going to vote Labour just to get the Tories out. If all of those people did actually vote, then yes, realistically, we can win. Aylesbury needs a Green MP. We need to stop our town being overdeveloped. We need to care a little bit more about what's happening to everything going on here. And at the moment, our current MP doesn't care what's going on here. There are other candidates who perhaps do care, but, are they all from Aylesbury?
Yeah, okay. Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for talking with me, Stephen.
You're very welcome.
Is it Stephen or Steve?
It's Steve. I'm
Sorry,
Steve Lambert,
I keep saying Stephen. I don't know
Only
why.
my mum called me Stephen, and she's been dead 8 years.
Okay.
So, you know.
Maybe I'm just reading the website wrong or something.
No,
okay.
that says Steve. That does say Steve.
Well, thank you very much.
That's okay.
Laura, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your
Yes.
time.
Great.
Thank you.
Well, Julie Atkins, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, John.
It's great
It's
to
been a
meet you.
pleasure.